Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today's guest is India's first ever NPC Bikini competitor and IFBB Bikini Pro, of course. And she's a posing coach who started her journey in 2014. Before bikini competitions even entered the scene in India, this athlete traveled to America to compete in 2014, 15, and 17. Then in 2018 at the Sheru Classic IFBB Pro qualifier series, she earned her IFBB Pro card. Aside from her passion for fitness, as well as, of course, bodybuilding, she's a professional makeup artist who not only teaches makeup, but has been working with various clients, including athletes, competitors, and Bollywood celebrities for 17 years. Welcome to the show, NAVREET JOSAN. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Celeste. How are you?
I am awesome. I'm so happy that you're here, of course, and grateful that you made the time to come on.
The pleasure is mine, and I'm really looking forward to just share my journey on your platform and talk about bikini, makeup, and everything we love.
Yeah, me too. It's going to be awesome to get into your journey. And before we do that, you know that I like to ask if there's anything you do or think about right before your heel hits the stage.
I think with me, of course, like when I started competing, I used to get really nervous. So for me, meditation has been one thing that's really helped. So for me, I just like to be present in the moment, just be really calm. And when it's time to get on the stage, it's like, boom, it's time to just show everything that I've done and be happy and just calm and enjoy the moment.
Yeah, the being calm part, I think, is a difficult place to get to when your adrenaline's pumping. You know, you're about to get on that stage, be judged for your performance, doing your routine. And like you said, you get yourself into a meditative state, and this helps you. But has that always been what you've done, or did that kind of come throughout your journey and experiences?
No, not at all. I think it came as I matured as a bikini athlete and probably uh, I think I achieved it on the day when I became a pro. That was the show when it kind of began. And
Oh,
I just felt, really, really relaxed, but also excited. Like it's quite, a different feeling. But, it's like when you have confidence in your preparation. And I think for me, that's what kind of brings in that calm. Of course, your heart's racing. And I think it kind of shows that you care about it if that happens because, it's I feel that no matter how seasoned you get, you're always gonna have butterflies in your stomach anyway. So I think it's somewhere just achieving a balance and sort of not letting the nerves mess up your performance is where I wanted to get to. But of course, really practicing that and by hit and trial and understanding things with experience, it happens.
yeah, I think that experience does play a big role in it. Like you said, no matter what, you're getting kind of nervous, getting those butterflies, the excitement. But over time, you learn a little bit more what to expect, how to control your own emotional experiences or what you're experiencing physically. But let's go back to the very beginning of your journey because you said that this has kind of been a maturing process. How did you even discover bikini competitions?
Okay, so there is a story. I have to go down the rabbit hole, and
Yes.
in a long time I haven't spoken about it, so this should be fun. So this started long back, like I would say in 2013 or so, when I was just really looking to get into shape. I was always athletic because my parents always encouraged sports, so that really helped it right from school. But I would always look at sports models on Pinterest and be like, wow, I want to have abs and I want to have those cuts. And, I used to find it really nice. but I was just not sure where to begin. So I was talking to my sister and she was in another city. And I was like, this is what I've been working towards, but I really don't know who to get in touch with because I'm trying, but I'm not really getting the results. So she said, guess what? There is a girl who comes to our gym and she has a really good body. So let me ask who is coaching her and how she went about it. And it turns out that she was the only NPC competitor from the figure division from India. So she had a coach from overseas and she said, okay, great, let me help your sister out. So she gave me the information and helped me get in touch with them. And when I got in touch with them, they said that, looking at your physique, you would be really good for bikini. So I said, okay, great. But that night when I spoke to her, and her name is Deepika, IFBB Bikini, she's figure pro, Deepika, and she's from Pune. So that night I sort of discovered the sport because I didn't even know about the sport in India. It didn't exist. We had women compete in one category and they would put everyone together. So there was no distinction between bikini, figure, anything like that. So I wasn't competing here because I didn't really feel like I had clarity on what is it I need to work towards. So that's how it started. And she said, I compete in figure and I think you would be great for bikini. And I was like, okay, so what is it about? So she told me a little bit about the division. And that night I went on YouTube and I searched about the division. And trust me, I couldn't sleep that night. I was that excited, but honestly quite intimidated as well because I was like, wow, like they seem so confident. Their bodies look amazing. And, just the hair and makeup overall. I was like, how am I going to do this? But I've always loved challenges. And that's where the journey began. So I started coaching and I gave myself about 4 months to prepare for the competition. I was already quite fit, but of course, I just needed to have that structure and build that sort of shape for bikini. So slightly more glute focused workouts, building my upper body a little bit. So I think when I had that guidance, that's what really helped me sort of focus on the category. But that's how it really began. And I started planning my trip from there on. And yes, that's where the journey began.
Wow. The thing that's so fascinating to me is you made the trip to a whole nother country to be able to do this. And it was still new here in America. The bikini competitions
Right.
just started at that point, only maybe like 4 years in, really, and it had been developing. So you were clearly driven to compete, but to go to another country, make it happen because there's nothing local to you, at very limited resources as well. What did you do to actually make that happen? Because I'm trying to imagine it's hard enough to compete locally for the first time, but to go overseas to do that, that's a lot.
Yes, and honestly, the challenges began even before that. Just when I was preparing for it, first of all, it's something that's very new. So just learning how to work out in a specific way. So I'm just, I felt like I didn't even know how to train like that. So just,
Yeah.
going online or asking a lot of questions to kind of understand the whole complex world of bikini, even with the food, because my coaches were from the United States, the food is very different here. So I was like, okay, no, like my coaches told me to eat this. I am going to find it out. But a lot of those ingredients weren't available over here at that time. It was really challenging to sort of build that sort of diet. And also we've not grown up eating salads and that kind of food. Like we eat bread like naan or not naan, but like whole wheat roti and or rice. That is more like a staple food. Uh, so it was very new to sort of get really comfortable with the diet. Of course, now I work with an Indian coach, so it's really, really easy because the diet is very much like what I'm used to eating. But that's where I began, and also not having the know-how of what to adjust, But even with exercises, if I was at the gym, I was like, she's told me to do this. I have to do this, this machine. I didn't really know what is it that I can replace easily. And of course, reaching out to my coach, sending an email, and because of the time difference, getting a reply a little bit late. So all of those things were quite challenging. Now, I think uh, in terms of my travel, even though I've been very much of an adventurous person and I've been quite brave in terms of the decisions I've taken in life, but of course, traveling to the US by myself it was a little bit scary, to be honest. Just planning everything by myself, being responsible for everything when I was quite young at that time. Also, just the financial part of it as well, because for us, it's like traveling to US can be quite expensive. And when you are at that age, it's like you really have to see where is it that you can,
Mhm.
find that money and break your savings to be able to go to the States. Planning travel, knowing that where is it I should stay, just the whole logistics of it, was quite challenging. And I felt like I made a lot of mistakes as well. And made life a little bit hard because I didn't really know how to, go from one place to another the easiest way. But at that point, I made the best decisions that I could, and when I got to the States, I did have a lot of support from fellow competitors, and I felt that was really, really amazing. The whole environment and everyone was super friendly, and they helped me out, even from the Airbnb that I stayed at, where people would just, I remember this one uncle, he fixed the bike with, like a basket in front. So I did have to spend money on cabs, and I could just
Wow.
go to the grocery store back and forth because I was just sharing. I was like, it's a bit expensive, but and even the conversion, I would end up buying too much or too less. So all of these like little challenges, but I had a blast, I must say. I really enjoyed it. It was challenging, yes, even like fixing like your knowing where to get heels, where to get your bikini, all of those things. They were not shipping to India. So finding somebody locally where
Mhm.
you ship to, all of that has really changed now. And we have guidance locally as well. Or, I try and be helpful to the bikini competitors here. But at the time, I just didn't have anyone locally to reach out to and be like, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Or can you help me how to go about it? So for myself, I had to just create that environment for um, myself over here by just looking at YouTube videos or reading about competitors or just staying in touch with my coach.
These are really great points. The fact that you didn't have access to even things like the shipment of a bikini or of heels, that's something we take for granted is the ease of accessibility here. So obviously things have evolved, but and changed and the popularity has grown. But at the time, that would have been really challenging to say the least. So did you have someone ship it to someone in America? How did you end up doing that?
Yes. So one thing, with India is we always have somebody who's living in the States because people from here, they're always like, we are all over the world. So I have some relatives. So I would
Oh,
reach out to
good.
them, just, make sure that everything is shipped over there. Or I would tell my coach if they could receive it at their office because I would always go see my coach first and then just for a little pep talk so that she could have a look at me in person and make any last minute adjustments. And then I would travel to where I was supposed to.
Wow.
So, yeah, what I would do was I wouldn't know what are like the big shows or the small shows. I had no idea. So what I
Yeah.
would be like, okay, so now I'm gonna compete here. This is the main show, but I also want to do two, three more shows. I would just see whatever is available on the calendar. So I've been to like really, really cute, tiny places and done some really small shows. But those are the ones where I also made friends that I'm still friends with them online, you
Wow.
know. So it's been a very, very different experience that way. I was really excited to go train at, the powerhouse gym, or I would be like, this is where I want to go train. So let me find a show over here. So I would make it more as an adventure and just make it more like a fun trip so that I really enjoy it, make the most out of it as well. and also do some nice shopping because so many things were not available here when it comes to supplements, fitness clothes. I mean, I think there's still so much opportunity here in India. So I would do a lot of shopping, and bring all the goodies back to India.
Yeah, that's super awesome. So how long were you in America for? Because you competed a few years in a row here. So yeah. And also how old were you at the time? Because you mentioned you were really young.
I'm 38 now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were around 28, sounds like.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big commitment.
Yes, yes. At that time, it really, really was. But super glad I made those decisions because I feel like I can really look back and be like, wow, I, I did all that, and it feels amazing. And of course, like the challenges you face, they always help you.
Absolutely. And so when you were there, you had competed in 2014 and 2015, and then you took some time away and then returned, I believe. So how long did you stay in America, and did you have to do any special travel requests through India to be able to stay?
So I had a travel visa,
Okay.
and my coach would send me a letter just saying that she's here to compete, all of that. So I never really had any challenges, but I would come specially to compete, and I would just wait until I'm done with the shows. And I would stay at Airbnbs usually so that I just have access to a kitchen and that's it. Just enjoy my time. It was more like my holiday. So I would spend all the leaves that I had at work mostly on competing.
Yeah. That's so cool. I think that this is so fascinating for so many reasons, but something that's crossing my mind is just the level of investment that you've put into competing, time, energy, effort, obviously finances. I think sometimes this can create an energy of like a intense desire for the outcome to be a certain way.
Yes, I agree totally. Yes. And I think I did go through that phase at the I think just I felt like that on the very first show, and I learned a lot from that whole experience, and that really helped me humbled me so that I was able to handle the ups and downs that were going to
Yeah.
happen over the next few years I was going to compete. So of course, like you said, when I got there, I was like, I want to win, and I was telling my coach, I was like, I really want to win. And I felt like I was going to win because I was a young competitor. I was like, I've done everything. I just, made sure I followed everything to the T. So I really want to win. And I came fourth, I think, on that at my first show. So I was like, shit, like I came fourth. And then Deepika, who was the other figure competitor, she was like, do you know that's a really big deal to place top five? And I'm like, "Really?" And she's like, yeah. So I was like, wow, okay. So that's it. Then I just had fun. I did like a really nice shoot with a photographer over there. And that's it. I think I really handled my placings over the next few shows really well. Sometimes I did well, sometimes it was a little bit off, but I always placed in most of the shows that I did, thankfully. So that kept me going. But I think, of course, we can talk about this a little bit later. But when I became a pro, my first few shows were not like what I expected them to be. And I have to be honest, like at the first show that I didn't do well, I cried like a
Yeah.
bucket. It was really hard. And I went through a really depressing phase after that. I put on a lot of weight. I ate a lot after the show. Uh, but yeah, slowly I think I learned. I didn't really have that guidance or the maturity to know all of these things then. But that's what, like we were speaking earlier, that experience really taught me.
Yeah, and I think part of that's like identity. You were getting used to winning, placing, doing very well. You had
Yes.
earned your pro card, you were representing your country. You were very heavily invested in this for many years. So then when you became a pro, obviously this is like a huge, amazing reward and experience. What was your expectation after you went pro versus what's happened since then?
So honestly, like I think one of my strengths is that I do try and be as realistic as possible. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna do the show and let's see. I do feel that I can at least be in the second call out, you know. When I got last call out, it was like
Yeah.
really because I think again, like that mistake of feeling that you've done everything. And for this show, I got to the US 2 weeks before the show. So, but things didn't really go well, and especially in the peak week, or just when I got there, you know, I was extremely bloated because of the long hours of flight, and I was feeling sick. I wasn't really adjusting to the food fast enough, and it was really like not a very good time for me. So but then, of course, just having that feeling that no, I'm here 2 weeks before, everything's going to go amazing. I've done everything I'm supposed to do during prep. All of that doesn't really guarantee you a placing at all, you know? So
Mm.
I think all the work you put in, it means a lot to you, but it doesn't really guarantee that you're going to place. So I think those are the things that I learned, and that's something that I encourage everyone to just especially the transition from being an amateur and competing in NPC and becoming a pro. It's a big jump, and you don't know what's going to happen. You could do really, really well, or you could place last. So I think just one thing I've learned is to just make sure that just keep doing your best. Everyone prepares how to win, but then just kind of it's really hard, but detaching yourself from a placing and making this more like a lifestyle has been the biggest takeaway for me. And nobody taught me these things. It was just all like tough lessons that I learned. But if you have a coach, or if you have like amazing podcasts like this one where people can share these experiences, you don't have to learn by going through it yourself. You can learn from other people's experience and try and make it a part of your life.
When I earned my bachelor's degree in psychology and went on to earn my clinical mental health counseling degree and even become a national certified counselor, I knew I wanted to bridge the gap between competitors and mental health professionals. Too often, athletes are told that they can't compete and have a healthy relationship with food or their body, and I absolutely disagree with that. I have helped thousands of women globally to build more than just a body by combining psychology, personal development, mindfulness, and my signature peace through growth process. If you are struggling with the post-show blues, or you're struggling with adherence to your prep, or any aspect of your relationship with food, your body image, or overall commitment to your goals, I have tons of resources available for you over at www.celestial.fit. Things like a free food relationship coaching series, free post-show blues coaching series, a full competitor card deck with statements to use for affirmations, journal prompts to go through, and even action and behavior changes that you can implement right away. I really believe that by prioritizing the inner work and developing a healthy mindset, competitors can have a more fulfilling journey. And I know the mental side of this sport is really key to establishing longevity, ending the yo-yoing from show to show, and really establishing goals that span well beyond the stage. If you're looking for that support, head over to www.celestial.fit, where you can find tons of free resources or even apply to work with me. Absolutely. I could not agree more with that. I've been through something so similar. I think in the beginning of my journey, I felt entitled to a win because I put in all this work and I didn't cheat and I was perfect on this plan. At the end of the day, it's a judge sport, and sometimes you're at the top and sometimes you're not. And it's part of the acceptance process. And like you said, learning to embrace just the lifestyle, making it a lifestyle, something that you really enjoy versus put your identity and worth into.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I've learned a lot about myself through bodybuilding, which I never knew I would. Like, for example, I feel like a lot of our insecurities can come from our childhood.
Mm.
And for me, I felt like maybe there were certain things like I remember I'm about 5'1", and here in India, we have that thing that your parents, it's changed a lot now. But I think when we were growing up, we used to have this thing that, oh, you need to be tall so that are tall enough and beautiful enough so to get married.
Hmm.
I don't know if there's such thing in the US like this, but it was very prevalent here to have like a good education and be tall and beautiful and fair so that you have somebody good to marry. And my parents, or like a lot of people would really make me feel like there's something wrong with me, that I'm not tall enough. And I feel that sort of became an insecurity when I was really young. And bodybuilding sort of became a way where I started getting a lot of recognition. So I tied myself a lot towards, just finding acceptance through that, which slowly I had to get away from so that I would just be mentally, in a good place. So that's been also a journey for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too. There's so many things that we experience throughout our life that bodybuilding can either shine light on or help us to start working through or bring to our attention in a way that previously we wouldn't have wanted to look at it. So I think it's really amazing that you've learned so much about yourself through competing. And as far as America, I mean, I would say there's some discussion around like women want a man who's taller than 6 feet, but you don't see it necessarily like, at least I don't know about it being ingrained in people the way that you're describing it there being like a standard, something that's almost like a checked box. I think for some women here, yeah, and for some men, yeah, but it's not as prevalent or like a beauty standard that's across the board, like what you're describing.
Right. It's changed a lot, I think, with the internet and social media and everything. I think it's really bridged the gap between generations and things are a lot better now. But yeah, I feel that people who are into bodybuilding sometimes can have certain insecurities that we sort of tend to fulfill through bodybuilding. But there are also a lot of amazing things that happen through it, which is, like just just that feeling of developing that discipline, the perseverance. And for me, it just gave me that feeling that I can do anything I want. If I can do all of this and I can diet hard year out and, train this hard and also manage my, life beyond that, it helps you build a lot of discipline for sure.
Yeah. Now, if you could like go back to when you first started competing, knowing what you know now, is there anything that you feel would have benefited you in your journey that someone listening might be able to take in their first steps?
Oh, yes, totally. So I think the main thing is to make this more like a part of your life rather than your life completely. And that's something that I did initially. I would be so hyper focused on uh, prep that I would just put everything aside and just get really serious about the whole prep bit. And I would just cut out my friends, cut out everything, and just be about work and working out and diet. But I think it's really important to learn how to make this more like a part of your life. Of course, there are going to be times when you have to be a little bit more focused and make other things a lesser of a priority. But just I think making sure that it's more of something that you do rather than something that you just do, once in a while is something that really did would help if I knew this, when I was young as well, so that I would not get so serious only during those 3, 4 months. And then during the rest of the year, I would just be like, not following my diet as well as I would.
And now that you have a coach who is in India, you had mentioned earlier it's different because your coach now integrates your lifestyle, your I think your culture's cuisine, it sounded like, versus your first coach, it was very American. So how does that look different? Because I know a lot of competitors who are worried they have to give up their favorite foods or the foods that they grew up with or the foods that they enjoy and are part like staples in their diet or their culture. So how has that looked different?
Right. So I think it's because of the fact that my coach has experimented all of this himself, and he got the confidence that, yes, because he went through the same process as I did. And then, but he also learned during the process, and he tried these things on himself. And he said, I think you can diet on an Indian diet and you can do well and you can prep. So that has, I think it makes me happy when I can eat food that is local. And when you feel good about, having those food choices, you are happy and everything just works out really well.
Mhm.
So I think that was a big change, and it really helped make things really sustainable and also kind of cut down the cost of everything. So that was a big one. And other than that, I think having my coach locally available, just it's really easy to reach out to him if I'm traveling. So he really taught me the lifestyle that we talk about. And earlier I used to be like, no, we have to do it this way. And he's like, no, like he really taught me that things like your health, things other than competing, like your work, your family, all of those things are also very important. So he really helped me shape up that sort of mindset to just make this more like a lifestyle.
And that's so much more sustainable. That's like a more enjoyable, fulfilling, and like I said, sustainable approach rather than I'm going hard for these months and then I'm off and then I'm going harder because I need to make up for it or I need to be better for it. Instead, when it's a lifestyle, there's like those ups, there's those plans, ups and downs, and you know what to expect. And it's not these huge changes. The pendulum swing is really small.
Yes, absolutely. I think that was like a really good change. And that's what helped me come back to bodybuilding. Like you must have noticed in between, I think took a little
Yes.
break. That was because I was like, how am I supposed to do this? And of course, there are other things like relationships or your work, and those things also play a big part in terms of influencing your
Mhm.
discipline in sport. So, I think when you're sitting down and thinking about competing, it's like, yes, I'm going to do this. But it's really important to learn how is it that you're going to balance those not so good days or like the post-show period as well.
Yes. Being prepared for every aspect of this journey instead of just looking at it like, I just need to get to the stage. It's like, well, you need to get to the stage, but then you got to get off the stage and then you got to support your body after. And like you said, that's all encompassing. That's social health, physical health, mental health, emotional health, and relationship health too. So when those things start to, and maybe yes, when we're focused on a prep, the priorities or the percentage of effort in each of those can change, but
Yeah.
I don't believe any of them should hit 0.
No, not at all, because I think it really affects you mentally. And the lesser those adjustments you have to do, the easier then it just feels like everything's just flowing. And honestly, it comes with the more shows you do, the more you learn, and things just keep getting better and better.
Yeah, and if you're not always waiting for like the next prep, like I know that sometimes as athletes we crave prep because we miss the discipline, the structure, the predictability of outcome. But in reality, what we're missing is just the routine of it. So if we can maintain a lot of that routine, then we're not craving as much as that because we have that predictability and structure day to day. And I think this allows for more productive improvement seasons and less rushing into the next prep. So we actually have time to make the improvements.
Yes, absolutely. And I think a big learning for me is to really be honest with your coach and communicate and let them know that this is what I'm struggling with, this is what I'm not enjoying, this is where I am. Because I think one thing that we tend to do is we want to portray this like you want to like be a good athlete in the eyes of your coach. But I think in that process, sometimes we can be not very honest, or we can just disappear sometimes
Yeah.
and not send a check-in because we were not perfect. But I think just letting them know if you're going through a really tough time or whatever is happening, and they can just help you make those changes or make things more enjoyable for you. I think that also really, really helps.
That's such a good insight because a lot of competitors, I think, start to equate their coach almost like a judge or a critic instead of a guide and someone who's there to make adjustments necessary based on the data that's being reported. So when we attribute the data we're reporting as good or bad, we're creating an unnecessary stress on ourselves or maybe even standards and expectations that the coach may not even have. So by reporting accurately, we're more likely to get the adjustments we need to be successful, which is why we hire them.
Yes, exactly. I think that is one thing I also had to learn slowly. And I was like, wow, this is a total game changer when you can just be a bit honest with your coach and let them know how you're feeling, or, if there's but I think it's also like having that trust, then you know, it's a fine balance because you don't want to tell them what to do. You don't
Right.
tell them to tell, yeah, like this is what I want to do. But I think it's like a very good balance of respect, but also being very communicative and letting them know.
100%. Now, you had shared recently that your current split is looking different than maybe previous splits you've done in an effort to deliver on feedback. So, talk to us about your pro career so far, what feedback you're working on, and what you hope to accomplish in doing so.
Sure. So when I started competing at that point, I definitely did lack a little bit balance because the way I trained, I used to work with a local trainer, and I would just train like how guys train,
Hmm.
So we'd have like a chest day and
Uh,
arms day, and that's what I really miss. But my body also shaped like that because I had slightly more developed quads. My upper body was also a little bit developed. So when I got after I turned a pro, when I started working with my coach, he told me that we need to grow more glutes to build that hourglass shape. So that's what we've been working on quite a bit. And it's been a really big change because I love training upper body quite a bit, but I had to learn how to fall in love with training legs. And so that's what we are focusing on. I train 4 days a week. And I've also learned how to prioritize recovery quite a bit. And especially as you age as a competitor, this becomes a really, really big part of your training because you want to, I mean, I think just generally as athletes, we need to really focus on the recovery part. And when I was young, it used to be like the boring thing to do, like recovery days or just making sure that I make time for proper sleep because I'd be like, I want to work, I want to train, I want to, so sleep used to be a little bit, but that's what my training is like. During the off season, cardio is more like 20 minutes to 30 minutes, but we definitely keep the activity going just for heart health. And we try and stay I think that's something that's helped because I like to do cardio in the morning. So I'll still, if I'm not going for cardio, I'll just go for a walk or something so that I kind of don't go away from that whole prep routine completely. I might dial it back a little bit, but I won't go off it completely so that it's really easy to kind of transition to prep mode, really, really fast.
Definitely. So it sounds like this started after you went pro.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely. They're all like very, very new learnings and, just kind of developing that sort of understanding of how to, uh, you know, make this more like something that's more fun and it's not very hard when it's otherwise I'm just doing the same thing for every prep again and again, and I'm not really making any progress.
Such a great point. I think you have to be willing to adapt and sometimes even take risks, do something different, which is what you did. You were like, okay, I want to do an approach that's more sustainable, that's more consistent, more considerate of what I want out of this. So, in doing so, you're experiencing more peace, it sounds like, with that process.
Yes, absolutely. Like that's the exact word. It just feels really, really nice. And life just feels, I feel like I'm in a really happy place that way.
Mm, yeah, that's so cool. How do you think that's going to affect you, like as a pro and into your future? Like, how do you foresee that maybe influencing the way that you think about shows or think about outcomes of shows and goal setting?
What exactly? I didn't get your question, sorry.
How do you think that that piece, that newfound piece, is going to affect the way that you set goals or the way that you view outcomes?
So I feel that I try and I don't want to make life harder for myself, but at the same time, I still want to have challenges and goals. So whenever I'm doing all of this, I try and, of course, seek guidance. And but at the same time, I try and make sure that my decisions are not very impulsive, and I kind of take into consideration everything from my health to making sure that there's a balance with my work, family time, and other things. Like earlier, we used to not have any shows here in India, so I would always go compete overseas. But now I compete mostly in India, but we are also looking at stacking other shows along with it. But yes, like just making sure I do more local shows, so it's just easy in every way. And then, maybe combine it with other shows that are closer to it so that it's just something that's more like a season for me during the year. So I think one thing I've also learned is that just making sure that I'm living life more in phases. So, like we were saying, that yes, during prep, that is the focus, but other things are also happening on the side. And then once I'm done competing, there are other things that I want to do, whether it's family time, I want to pick up a new hobby that I didn't have time for. So, living life in phases, but having other things also running is something that I kind of take forward from this whole lifestyle or this new mindset.
Definitely. Okay, so when you are doing obviously prep, other things are still happening, but all these years you've been a professional as well. So you do posing coaching, you're also a professional makeup artist. So let's talk about posing coaching for a little bit. When did you start that and what does that look like in conjunction with all these other things in your life?
Right. So with posing coaching, what happened was that it's something when I started competing, it's something that I struggled with because I would always have to work with a coach overseas and kind of learn everything, via a Zoom call or a FaceTime. And of course, nothing beats having somebody in person to teach you that. And so I think that's where, when I had a little bit of experience, for me, it was like, okay, I just want to make sure I have something for the locals over here, local athletes, so that they can reach out and I can just teach them, really simple things about posing so that it's I think one thing I want to also talk about is that, Celeste, for us, it's not like super comfy to be in a bikini all the time because over here, because of the culture, and also like it's not we don't have so many beaches, so it's not like we find ourselves in a bikini, all the time. So I think that kind of does bring in a little bit of feeling conscious, or
Mhm.
like knowing how to just kind of slay and feel totally confident and comfortable in a bikini. Of course, when you work on your body, you feel confident, but I think learning how to walk and, handle your hair and, how the nitty-gritties of posing. So I think that's where it started. So I work with my coach, and we provide a lot of online and in-person coaching for our clients. But I also work with anyone who wants to reach out to me otherwise as well, just to get some guidance. Or if they want to do a session, for any of the local shows that they're doing over here. So I do everything. I try and break down the session so it's really easy for everyone to kind of understand them, and if they can come and see me and do a posing session in person. So just helping them with that. So I try and create like that full package so that, from posing to makeup. So I'm at all the local big shows that happen over here, and I provide makeup and hair services, then posing, and then if anybody needs coaching as well, we have that also.
Wow. So you bring up a really an insightful point that I hadn't thought about before, which is when you're not around beaches or pools or opportunities to really be wearing a bikini or bathing suit, it's just like not part of the norm. You can go months or years, and I've met women here too who are like, I haven't worn a bikini since high school. So
Oh, right.
that's a shock, like, to be like, okay, now not only are you wearing a bikini, but you're also gonna pose in it, and you're gonna have heels on, and you're gonna have to be smiling when you're doing all of this. So, what do you find is the most helpful to bring someone who is in that kind of a mindset into a state of confidence and that confidence where they can shine in that situation?
Yes, I think, of course, I can speak from my experience, and that's how I feel I work with my clients as well, is to just make sure that you have a lot of faith in your preparation. And for that, of course, it means that making time to get into a bikini, every other day, and making sure you practice your posing. And I think also like doing simple things like posing in front of a group of people, whether it could be friends, getting their feedback, because I know for a lot of people, it can be something like when they do their first show, they feel totally out of place, no matter how much they practice, so they'd be like, I practiced my posing for an hour every day. But when I got to the show, it was just a disaster because it was just different. It was like the lights and everyone's looking at me. So I think also visualizing that is really important, just feeling the lights, having that, this is going to be the crowd, they're going to be people that are looking at me, and of course, having confidence in your preparation is I think the mental and the preparation part of it
Mhm.
are things that can really make you feel confident about it. And then, of course, just telling yourself that, I'm going to go and enjoy it rather than stress about it. Like, what's the worst that could happen? So,
Yeah. That's a scary question to ask. But you're right. I love it too, because you're thinking about confidence and preparation. That I believe is really the key. If you can be confident that you did what you needed to do, the likelihood of you getting up there feeling much better is higher. You're going to just feel better because you know you did what was necessary versus sometimes that fear or that overwhelming concern for what others might think can keep us from actually valuing our ability and pursuing the passion that's been planted in us.
yes, those are really, really good points, I feel. Yes.
Yeah. So, as a makeup artist as well, I mean, it sounds like you're doing the whole package. So, for makeup, I had a bit of a controversial question.
So,
Um, s-
sorry, can I interrupt you? There's one more thing I want to add to the pre.
please.
Yes, so I want to talk about the fact that I think also sharing your journey, if you have an online presence, or I think definitely if anyone's open to sharing that with people online, I think that somewhere can help you, because it's like, you're putting yourself out there, and making it more like something that you're doing along the way rather than just something on that day. So I think that's also, and it kind of helps you build your presence online, which can help you, build sponsorships and help you if you want to build a career out of it. That can also help quite a bit.
I'm glad that
But
you mentioned that.
yes, but also, yes, making sure that there can be a lot of negative comments as well, because people can say nasty things online as well. So I think if that's something that affects you, maybe staying away from it during the last few days can help.
Have you ever experienced that, like negative comments or feedback?
Yes, I have, but thankfully not a lot. So I think the only bad ones that I've got is sometimes people don't really like that look when you're getting really, really lean.
Yeah.
So a lot like, "Ooh, why are you doing this?" So I
Mhm.
think at that point, slowly you just realize that they don't really understand. And sometimes it used to get on my nerves because I was like, I've spoken about this so many times that this is for stage. But you just have to know that people don't really know that, and they're not necessarily educated about the sport. So it's okay, like just let it be.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think you make a great recommendation when it comes to sharing your journey too, because it's almost like a form of exposure where you're exposing yourself to the potential for critique. You're also exposing yourself to the potential for celebration and learning that neither of them carry so much weight as opposed to what your process is and why this is important to you. And sharing it, like you said, can also increase your audience, your potential for sponsorships, or even just friendship. Really, you can connect with others when you share it.
Yes, yes. So I think that's something that can help. Do you have any other points?
Well, now that I think about it, I've shared my check-ins like year round for years, both in improvement season and in prep. That would be
Mhm.
one thing I would recommend too, is not just in your prep, but even share post-show, share your check-ins.
Mhm.
It can remove a lot of that, I guess you could say, association that gets formed with being in this bikini means I'm prepping and I'm getting leaner. But instead, we can see being in this bikini means I'm actually just doing what I need to do for this sport for the season that I'm in. And sometimes that looks like gaining muscle, gaining fat, focusing on health. So I have found in my own journey by sharing year round, I've helped other people to see a normal body. It
Yeah.
changes, and it's not just that prep physique.
Yeah, that is, I think, a really, really good point. And I think that's something we can all do a little bit more of, because I think we get really excited when it's prep, but during the off season, we can go through a lot of ups and downs, and it can be like, oh, I really don't like my body. But when you post about it, people might actually appreciate it quite a bit. And you will also, be accountable and be
Mhm.
very relatable with people as well.
Right. So, as far as makeup goes, do you feel that there are advantages that a makeup artist has to doing someone's competition makeup as opposed to someone who does it themselves?
So sorry, your question is that, can you come again?
Yeah, so how, as a makeup artist, do you have an advantage over someone who does their makeup themselves for shows?
On myself, you mean?
In general, so, like, if someone were to consider, "Should I do my makeup myself or should I hire a makeup artist?" What do you think are the advantages to hiring a makeup artist?
So I think when you're hiring a makeup artist, one thing is that you, of course, can just relax and know that there's somebody who knows how to do it really, really well, is a professional. So you can just relax and let them do their job. But I think on the other side, sometimes people who are really, really good with their makeup, if they know how to do their own face really, really well, um, you know, that can be a plus as well. So it's about how, and you don't know what's going to be right, because for me, I have had both sides. Like for
Mm.
myself, I've had days when I have had shows when I have completely messed up my makeup, but like a little bit, and I was like, that was not the best look. But I've also had days, like especially when I was traveling, and I didn't, I wanted to just sort of cut down on my expenses a little bit. It was definitely an advantage.
Yeah,
Does
that's a
that
good
make
point.
sense?
Yeah, it does. So when you're doing someone's makeup, what are some of the things that you're looking at or considering to help them bring their best to the stage?
So I think the advantage is, of course, when I'm as a makeup artist and an athlete, when I'm doing somebody's makeup, it's just certain things that as an athlete you kind of understand better, because you're an athlete yourself. So I think just how they're feeling, taking care of them, making sure that they have, anything that they need, which is more prep related. But other than that, I think just making sure I'm matching their tan and bringing it up on the face a little bit and making sure that the face some sort of looks like it belongs to the body as well. So that is one. And I think for me, it's also about really making sure that what is it that they actually want to look like? Because everybody's makeup style is different. And just making sure, sometimes a lot of people will tell you that they want you to take the call. So I
Mhm.
think when they tell me that, I just look at what is their best feature and I try and really highlight that. Uh, but of course, making them feel really, really confident, bringing out their best features, making them feel really, beautiful. Those are things I kind of strive to achieve. And of course, helping them make sure that the makeup is quite long wearing. I teach them how to touch up their makeup so that if I'm not there, they know how to touch it up. I give them a little bit of their lipstick so that they have it with them so that they can just touch it up themselves as well. But yeah, just I think also knowing the bikini trends, the makeup trends, because sometimes those can change as well based on what is it that is trending in bikini. But of course, like making sure that it feels like a part of them as well.
At the risk of sounding dumb, what are the features that you're looking at or for when you're saying you're trying to identify their best?
So I am mostly looking at the eyes or the lips. So that is one. So if someone has really, really beautiful eyes, I will definitely do more of an eye focused look. And then just, sort of work on the rest of the features. But if somebody has really beautiful lips, I will still highlight the eyes, but I'll make sure that I kind of focus on that a little bit more, or
Mhm.
maybe kind of highlight them or use a specific color so that, it highlights them a little bit more.
Okay, that helps. Now, what do you want people to maybe know before they come to a makeup session? Like maybe face washing or preparation for their skin that they should know about or consider?
Yeah, so I think with the preparation, just make sure you don't have any makeup on because it just helps speed up the process. You can do your regular skincare, that's fine. So in case there's any, then we can just straight away start from the primer and just save up time. But I think that's about it. You don't have to stress about the makeup bit at all. We can take care of you, and that's why we are there. Uh, but yeah, just come on time so that we can get you out on time as well.
Yeah, show up on time is a big one. Because then there's
Yeah.
other competitors showing up who are like, "Oh my gosh, I need to be ready."
Yes, that happens. And I think, sometimes things happen, like people can't find where you are, and they turn up late. But yeah, like we try our best to just accommodate everyone and just take care of everybody.
Yeah. So you also teach makeup. What are some of
Yes.
the tips you might give to someone who is considering doing their own makeup?
I think just knowing your foundation shade. So having one shade that's a little bit closer to a tan color. So having a shade that's a little bit more warm and dark. And you want to keep two shades. So one is more like your shade, which you want to apply more on the center of your face, because we don't want the face to look as dark as the rest of your body, because then you just look really dull. You still want areas that are highlighted on your face. So like your under eyes, your forehead, the center of the face. But you want to take that tan color. I usually like to use a foundation. Some people use a tan also, but using that foundation more on the periphery of the face really helps sort of bring that cohesiveness to your makeup. So that's for the base, and just making sure you're using products that are long wearing. That can really help as well. So that's for the base. And then other than that, I think it's more about doing a sort of eye look that you really like. So I usually create a Pinterest board so that, I have some inspiration of how I want my look to look that day. Make sure you practice it beforehand. And of course, the makeup has to be a little bit more than what you would do when you're going out on a regular night out, because it's for stage, and you are really, really far. So you still want to make sure that your features are popping, your eyes are nicely defined. Um, with the cheeks, you want to make sure that you add a bit of pop of color so that it just looks nice and bright, and maybe adding a little bit more, because it does look a little bit more diffused on stage.
Hmm.
So you would add a little bit more than what you normally would. And then highlighter, I think contouring, lips are a really big trend still at the moment. So I think using a darker lip pencil really helps, so that you're kind of contouring the lips. And then you want to make sure that the lip, if you're matching it to your suit, you can do that. Or you can just wear something that's more nude, but not too nude, because it can make you look a little bit more stylish.
I've made that
And
mistake. I thought I bought one color lipstick. I got the wrong one and I was like, no, I don't have the right color. And it was it was way too light. So my lips didn't, they looked really thin on stage. They were like washed out versus like full looking colorful life. Like there was life in them. So I was like, oh, lesson learned. So that's really great advice.
yeah, so I would say definitely that, and practice your look if you're planning to do it yourself. Take pictures, show it to other people, see how it photographs, and fake lashes, definitely, because they definitely do add a little bit of more of that drama that you need on stage. That glam look, it definitely brings that in. But yeah, I think just if you're planning to do your own makeup, just it's really fun. So just having a nice idea of what is it that you want, and practicing and making sure you have all the products with you. And tools are really important. So if you have all the products, but you don't have the right brushes to use it, it's gonna be a disaster again. So making
Mm.
sure you have the right brushes with you is a big one.
That's a really good piece of advice too, because I could see that complicating things. Like you buy all the products you need and you only have like one or two brushes, and that could be problematic.
Yes, absolutely. And then,
So, oh, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say that definitely take your makeup with you. This is for everybody, but when you're packing your kit, just make sure you take touch-up products with you. So for your hair, whether it's a straightening iron or a curling iron. For your nails, you can carry some nail glue if you use fake nails, or like extra nail polish, extra pair of heels, lipstick, powder. These are definitely going to be very important, because sometimes you can get really oily backstage. So a lipstick, if there are very few products you want to carry, a lipstick and a compact are going to be the most important. And maybe eyelash glue as well, if you're
Yeah.
wearing fake lashes.
I'll even add to that list, which is a great list. And I wish I would have had that in the beginning, especially the nail glue. Oh, I
Yeah.
pack extra nail glue like it's nobody's business. Same with eyelash glue. Earring backs. I don't have my ears pierced. I always wear clip-ins, but the thing I hear all the time backstage is, does anybody have an earring back? Does anybody have an extra earring back? So that would be something I would say to bring.
Yes, absolutely. I think the less stressful you are backstage, the better it is. So just pack extra if you can.
Yes. Agreed. So, what are you focusing on now? I mean, we know you're growing, you're trying to build your glutes, build a better shape. So, what are you hoping to achieve as a pro, and how's that going to look for your season?
Right. So now we are in improvement season, but I have had a few challenges. We wanted to start like a proper growth phase around January, but I did fall sick quite a bit and in between, and I had a lot of travel because of work. So there were phases when I had to go more into a maintenance phase rather than a growth phase. And initially it was leading me to a little bit of like, like things are not going the way I planned it. And I think over the past few weeks, I've really relaxed on that part. And with my coach, we've discussed that, let's just not, because I felt like having the next show in mind, because I've always previously been like that, like I need to know when we are competing so that I can work towards it. And my coach used to always say that just focus on following the plan, and whenever you're closer, we will know that you're ready to compete. And I was like, no, I need to know when I'm competing. But this time I think I've kind of relaxed on that part. And I might compete in the show in December in India, but it's not confirmed. We'll see how things go. And but the whole point is to just kind of not feel stressed about it, because I kind of figured that I was just it was really like mentally stressing me out. So I was like, why am I being this way? Let me just relax. What's gonna happen? Like I might not do the show, I'll probably do the next one in the next few months. So that is the plan. But the ultimate plan is to, of course, qualify for Olympia. No Indian bikini athlete has done that yet. So if if I do that, it'll be like a really good milestone. That is the aim. But yeah, I'm just kind of flowing with life right now and just focusing on enjoying things, just enjoying lifting, creating healthy food habits and a good relationship with food, which reminds me that I do want to do your course as well. I was planning
Yes.
to take the free workshop, but I felt like I just never followed through it, but completely. So I want to like give it a proper chance and work with you. So because I feel like anyone, that's one thing we struggle with so much,
Mhm.
That's probably the number one thing that we struggle with during our journey into competing is building a very healthy relationship with food. And that's something I am still working on, I would say. I've definitely gotten better with it, but that is probably my number one focus right now, is just having a very holistic and healthy approach towards my diet, and then just sort of maintaining a really good routine. So I'm just kind of doing my cardio training, and
That's absolutely awesome, and I'd love to support you. So I'm excited to hear that you're going to do that.
yes, that would be great. And I really like the way you approach things, and
Thank you.
you even write your posts. I sometimes when I'm like, I just want to learn something, and I tend to go to your posts, and
Oh,
it really looks like you put a lot of thought into writing them, and they resonate really, really well. So to anyone who's listening to the podcast, I would definitely recommend you follow Celeste and also check out her courses. They're really, really good resources.
thank you so much. No one ever does that. So that meant a lot to me. Thank you for that. That is so awesome. And I'm now like nervous. Like I'm
No,
humbled, that's so sweet.
And I also feel like you're somebody who does that out of the love of it.
Yeah,
You know, like
I'm glad
even,
that's felt.
yeah, even like I know that running this podcast is something, it's just like, it's like something you keep doing. Of course, you don't know what's gonna come out of it, but
Yeah.
you just do it because you just love connecting with people and you like to help.
Oh, I love to hear that because that's the intention. That is what's behind it. So to know that that's felt is awesome and so fulfilling. Like my cheeks hurt. It means so much to me. Seriously. Yeah,
But
I
yeah, that's
really appreciate
the
it.
beauty of doing these podcasts and just connecting, that otherwise we would haven't really known each other, and connected.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. I think about like where I was when I started this podcast and I could have never imagined that it would get to this point and I'm so thankful and thankful for people like you who actually want to be on it and talk with me and share. It's amazing.
Yeah, so keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. I will. Now, before I get your best advice, I want to ask if there's anything I didn't ask you that you think I should have.
I think I just want to mention that for anyone who's considering competing, uh, sometimes a lot of people can embark on this more as, oh, I want to lose weight and that's why I want to get into competing. And while that can be something really exciting because it's like, okay, that is my goal and it's going to push me towards doing that. I think from experience, I just want to share that it would be it would be really nice if you can sort of learn about what really goes into prep and sort of prepare yourself and condition yourself and be in a really good place of starting prep
Mhm.
rather than just jumping on it for the sake of losing weight, because there is so much to competing rather than just the weight loss aspect of it. And that's something I would really encourage. So we have so many good resources these days and access to a lot of good coaches, and they can definitely guide you towards that. So I feel that would be one one learning that I would like to share with anyone who's kind of struggling with weight loss or just body image.
Yeah, actually, I thought of a question I should have asked you as well. What does your family think about competing, given what you had shared in the past with the standards and expectations?
Right. Okay. So that's the that was also quite an experience. So when I started competing, I didn't tell my parents, except
Oh,
I called her and I told her, hey, I'm doing the show and this is what it's about. And I had to tell her that I'm gonna wear a bikini for it. And uh, my parents actually, there is a big age gap, a generation gap, I would say, between their generation and our generation. But I have to say that my parents they're super cool and they're very supportive, and that's been one of my biggest strength as a competitor is that I've had their support. Of course, it took a while because my mom's like, "Don't tell dad, I will tell him." And my mom told him, and it was really sweet. Like after my first show, I told them, and they kind of understood the sport and they saw everything. And when I would go overseas and compete, my parents would stay in touch with me through Facebook, and my dad would be commenting on my pictures and saying, all the best, my kid, my daughter, and it would be really sweet to have that support. And when this sport sort of became familiar in India, uh, there were a lot of people who would talk to me about, breaking stereotypes. And that is exactly what was happening, was that this whole thing of, oh, like, should women train and have muscles or wear a bikini and work and all of those things. So I think when I was competing, especially the show in India, there were like 6 competitors, but now it's a stacked class.
yeah.
So things have really, really changed from before. But I definitely was very lucky to have support from my parents from the very beginning.
So cool. I love to hear that. And it does make a big difference.
Yes, and they were really cool about it. Like sometimes they would just be like make fun, in
Yeah.
like a humorous way, like look at you eating your salad, or
Yeah.
and even at work, like it was a very big adjusting phase because, of course, people would just be like, why does she have to eat a meal, like all the time at such regular intervals and being really, but I think I was really stubborn about my goals. I would try and be very flexible, and slowly people start changing around you and even be inspired by you.
So true. It really can make a difference. And like you said, you're breaking stereotypes and have been as a result.
Yes.
So you shared really great advice for someone who's thinking about competing, but I'll still ask you in case you want to add more. What would be your best advice for someone who wants to compete but hasn't yet? And then your best advice for somebody who is on their road to pro?
Right. So for somebody who's on their road to pro, I would say that definitely along with your training and the diet and everything, it's really important to sort of work on our mental health and the mental aspect of it, because the stronger you are mentally, the more successful you're going to be in every way, whether it's like the way you handle your placing, to the challenges that are thrown at you, to sort of adjusting and adapting to the transition from being an amateur to a pro at the moment. And I think sort of building that conducive environment for yourself is really important, especially like with a lot of folks here in India, where sometimes we don't have, like when you go to a gym, sometimes you're the only pro over there, so you don't have that sort of environment. So I think finding ways to have that sort of, you know, energy around you, whether it's through podcasts, through YouTube, through just sort of having meetups with people from the community. Those are things that really, really help. Now and of course, like I mentioned before, is it's really helpful to sort of make this more like a lifestyle and sort of live life more in phases. I think that would be my biggest advice, because then you can compete for as long as you want, as long as, because there's no limit to it. So if you can make this more like a lifestyle and something that you do every day, of course, the intensity can vary from month to month and what phase you're in. So you might be doing more cardio and you might be more regimented with your diet during a certain phase, but during certain times, you might allow a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more time. There might be times when you have to focus a little bit more on work so that you have the income to support your expenses for competing. Uh, but I think not giving up on other aspects also. So make sure that, you still have things going on. If you can't make it to the gym one day, try and go the other day, try and stay as close to your diet. So making this more like a lifestyle is something that we should all learn to work towards.
100%. Yes. Everything that you've shared has just, I'm like, yep, 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 throughout the whole episode. It's been amazing to hear your story, connect with you. And I want other people to be able to continue to follow your journey and potentially work with you as well. So, how can they do that?
So you can reach me out on Instagram. My Instagram ID is Little Rocket. It's LILROCKET. And you can also reach me on my email. So if you go to my Instagram, there is my email's also there. So you can reach out to me. And when it comes to makeup, I usually post about it to whichever show I'm going. So you can definitely reach out to me there as well. And for posing, you can feel free to reach out to me throughout the year so that we can work on it.
Amazing. Now, I would regret if I don't ask you where Lil Rocket came from.
Oh yes, there is a story. So when I was not competing, this was in 2010 or so when I started getting active on Instagram, and I took a trip to Thailand because at that time I was into Muay Thai. And
Oh.
me and my bunch of friends, we went to Thailand to just kind of, have a fun little trip and also just train because it's their like
Yeah.
national. So what happened was when I was there and we were training, we would first of all just all go for a run around the hill. And what would happen is I would beat everybody every day. I would just run. And then there was this Australian girl who just said, "Look at her. She's like a little rocket." And everybody started calling me a little rocket at that trip. So, and I was making my Instagram ID that day. I'm like, what should I call it? I was like, let me name it Little Rocket. So that's where it started. And at this point, like a lot of people know me by my Instagram ID rather than my handle,
Yeah.
rather than my name. So I've kept it that way.
That's so great. I love that story. And that's totally speaks to your both competitive and fun nature.
Thank you.
Of course. So we'll put all of the details in the show notes page. You guys, that's always on celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening first thing on Friday, it'll be at the top of the page. If you're listening in the future, scroll down to the category section, which is alphabetized. Not only will you see the links to connect with us, but you'll also see a full episode summary, a bulleted list of the topics we covered, as well as episode timestamps. So you can go back and listen to your favorite parts or share it with your teammates, your friends, your family. Let them know what resonated. And of course, it means so much to us when you message us, letting us know you listened, what you thought about it, or you tag us and share it in your story. These athletes coming on, sharing their journey courageously, giving us their insights and their lessons. It is awesome. And I love to see them get kudos and thanks and kind messages for it. So please do feel free to reach out and connect with us. That's why we're here and doing this. So all that being said, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.